It's Thursday, October 18th. Mobs, mobilized by political parties and other groups opposed to the implementation of the Supreme Court judgment that allowed women of all ages access to the Sabarimala temple, violently attacked women journalists, smashed vehicles they were traveling in, and damaged equipment. All through Wednesday, women were forcibly taken down from buses and other vehicles at Nilakil, the disembarkation point for Sabarimala. All this as the Kerala police mostly watched, unable to control the mob. The only woman in the menstruating age group who was able to start the trek to the hilltop shrine, aided by the police, was later heckled and sent back by the mob. J Akbar has resigned as minister in the Modi government. His continuation had become untenable after at least 16 women alleged he sexually harassed or assaulted them during the years he helmed different newspapers as editor. Meanwhile, the Patiala House Court in Delhi will today hear the criminal defamation case filed by Akbar against journalist Priya Ramani. Now, 20 former and current employees of the Asian Age have asked the court to consider their testimonies while hearing the matter. In a statement, the journalist said, Ramani's account lifted the lid on the culture of casual misogyny, entitlement and sexual predation that Mr. Akbar engendered and presided over at the Asian Age. A Chandigarh court sentenced self-styled Godman Rampal Das and 13 others to life imprisonment for the death of a woman during a 2-week standoff with the Haryana police at Rampal's Satlok Ashram in Hisar in November 2014. This is in addition to another life sentence awarded to Rampal on Tuesday for the death of 4 women and a child through suffocation and illness during the same Hisar Ashram impasse. In 2014, Ramdas repeatedly failed to appear before the Punjab and Haryana High Court in another case. On court orders, the police ghered out his ashram. What followed was almost 2 weeks of violent protests between his followers and paramilitary forces. 6 lives were lost. One of the 15 suspects named by Turkey in the disappearance and suspected murder of Saudi dissident journalist Jamal Khashoggi was a frequent companion of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, reports the New York Times. A forensic doctor, also named, holds senior positions in the Saudi Interior Ministry. This report brings into question US President Donald Trump's claim that rogue killers might have been responsible for Khashoggi's disappearance. Turkey claims 15 Saudi hitmen and a forensic doctor killed the journalist inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, dismembered his body, removed it, and cleared all evidence. OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, is an intergovernmental organization of 14 nations that together take petroleum policy decisions which play a big role in the price we pay for fuel. In 2014, the world's most powerful oil producer, Saudi Arabia, blocked calls by poorer members of the OPEC cartel to arrest a slide in prices by cutting production. As a result, oil prices bottomed out. The Saudi-led move was meant to ensure that OPEC countries maintain their hegemony in the global oil market in light of a boom in US shale oil production. The way to do that was to keep prices low. The US had upped its shale gas production from 2014 and capacity was significantly increased, which meant that America, then the world's largest oil importer, began to reduce its oil imports. So, having managed to temporarily prevent shale oil from flowing out of the US, in 2016, Saudi Arabia ended the price war that had severely battered the budgets of OPEC nations, including that of Saudi. Most of these countries, remember, have no other revenue source. Saudi convinced Russia and other non-OPEC countries to cut its output to help OPEC prop up oil prices. This is called the Algiers Accord. So, as supply reduced, oil prices rose 3 times. Now, as this Bloomberg analysis from last month shows, OPEC countries have overcomplied on oil cuts. Russia, of course, has reversed its cuts. Production side problems for OPEC have been accentuated with Venezuela production and economy in a free fall. There's also been a decline in production from Angola and Mexico. American sanctions on Iran kick in November, in effect restricting oil supply further. Iran is India's second largest oil supplier. In June, OPEC, which accounts for about 40% of global production, responded to calls from the US, China and India to moderate prices by announcing that it will increase production. India says this hasn't happened. Petroleum Minister Dharmendra Pradhan said OPEC had promised something in the month of June. There will be an additional production of 1 million barrels per day after their decision of capping. But according to our information, though Russia and Saudi Arabia, the major contributors of OPEC, have increased their production, some other countries are lagging behind. India has also been demanding an end to what is called an Asian premium on oil. Countries like India and China pay more for OPEC oil than the US and European nations. This discriminatory Asian premium pricing mechanism is a result of a marker-based price system adopted by Saudi Arabia in the late 1980s. As Asian countries depend heavily on oil imports, oil exporters use their superior bargaining power to squeeze Asian oil importers. But as this opinion piece in the business line argues, times have changed. Asian countries now have more sources to tap into. The US has started exporting oil thanks to the shale boom. India imported its first US oil consignment last year and must constantly look to diversify its import basket. China and India are among the largest oil importers in the world today, a position they must use to collectively bargain for fair and non-discriminatory pricing. This Times of India editorial agrees, saying 4 large oil importers are in Asia: China, India, Japan and South Korea. India should take the lead in securing cooperation among buyers, given its deepening ties with Japan and South Korea and overlapping interests with China in this matter. There is a powerful case to bring about a mechanism to foster cooperation. Undermining a supplier's cartel will help India, which remains vulnerable to spikes in oil prices. The only way buyers can bring about a fair deal is to recognize a common interest and act upon it. India's oil demand is expected to rise by 5.8 million barrels per day by 2040, accounting for about 40% of the overall increase in global demand during the period. And finally, what clouds are to silver linings, smog is to Bryan Adams. No kidding. In probably the only upside to the National Capital Region's air quality index dropping to very poor, an ethereal silhouette of Bryan Adams appeared in the dusty air above Gurgaon's Leisure Valley Park during his concert on Sunday. I've never seen that before. Magical India, said Adams. Wish we could say the same. Breathe safe. See you tomorrow.